What's up, you guys? Ross Sapp, managing editor, FightfulMMA.com, Fightful.com. We are over here on the Pro Wrestling Channel live. This podcast will go up later on the new MMA and Boxing channel very soon as well. If you want to do us a favor, go on over YouTube.com/FightfulMMABoxing. Subscribe to us. I'd really like for us to hit 1,000 by the new year. It would mean a lot. But leave a thumbs up on this video. Subscribe. Leave a comment on your thoughts of the fights, all that good stuff. Really appreciated. This show brought to you by actionheat.com/Fightful, or you can use the code Fightful. Save yourself 20% on their awesome heated gear, heated clothing. I'll tell you all more about that a little bit later on, but let them know that you heard about them from us, and we thank them for sponsoring tonight's podcast. This show was a good one. We had an outstanding Fight Pass prelim show. We had a pretty good mix on the main pay-per-view card. The Fox Sports 1 prelims, we'll talk a little bit about them, but let's quickly go through the early fights on this show. Alexander Rakic clipped Devin Clark, round 1 TKO. I have my Ross Sapp's recommendations on FightfulMMA.com in the morning, but I'll give them to you here. Watch this. It was action-packed, a nice comeback. Rakic moves to 3-0 in the UFC after this one. Hasn't fought in the States yet, though. Devin Clark had moved back to light heavyweight for this fight after having his entire 3-0 career at heavyweight in the UFC. So you have to wonder what that'll mean for him, considering that he was doing pretty well. He just happened to get caught. Clark dropped Rakic with a big left and looked like he had it in control, but not so much. Rakic caught Clark with a wild back fist after he was being countered. It's not something you can really train a whole lot. So that's not one that I think anybody saw coming, at least that type of knockout. Maybe they saw Rakic winning this, but not to that degree. Reminder, Showdown Joe Ferraro, James Lynch, who is in Toronto for this fight, will join us Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, for the FightfulMMA.com podcast. Carlos Diego Ferreira predictably TKOs Kyle Nelson in round 2, TKOs him. Carlos had lost 2 in a row against, or had in the past lost 2 in a row against Dariush and Poirier, who at the time were something to behold, but has since won 3 in a row and continues that streak. Since he's come back from his USADA suspension, he's 2-0 with 2 finishes, so not too bad. But Nelson was a late replacement for Jesse Ronson, who we spoke to at FightfulMMA.com. He wasn't winning this. You'll be fine not watching this fight. Just watch the finish. Diego Lima drops the Canadian Chad Laprise in round 1. I think Lima had to win this fight. Between his 2 UFC runs, he was 1-5 in the UFC with 3 straight losses as a pro. He was really living off of his 6-0 tough record, including his last run where he won 3 fights and made it to the finals. Laprise is a streaky fighter. He'll win 3 in the UFC, then drop 2, then win 3 in a row. That's just the way he is. Laprise is a good name to have for these Canadian prelims, but he ate a nasty right hand for a walk-off KO for Diego Lima. Watch this. It is a fantastic finish. Up next, we have Brad Katona, essentially outlasting Matt Lopez. I thought he was way better than Lopez in this fight. Lopez, ideally a flyweight, I believe, who is just competing at this weight. I believe so. I'll have to check, but I seem to remember that. Katona, story of this is the finish or the non-finish. The Katawaki choke that Brad Katona pulls out. If you're unfamiliar with the Katawaki choke, I have I've seen it implemented before, but I've never seen it actually pulled off in a UFC fight. And my catch wrestling coach was telling me about how Sam Crescent was showing them this. It is essentially a crucifixed rear naked choke or side headlock choke. And I was shocked, man. Couldn't believe we saw this one in his arsenal. But I mean, Brad Katona is so much better than a lot of people give him credit for. Stay on the lookout for Brad Katona. He's one I expect to see in the top 10, top 5 of this division moving forward. Number 14, Fightful alumni, Elias Theodorou hits Eryk Anders, the quick rising Eryk Anders with the Splitsky decision. You can pass watching this fight. Also for the Katona fight, just watch the Katawaki choke at the end of that fight where there were questions. Should it have been stopped? No, he won. He's all right. But Elias has such a weird, awkward, tough style to nail down. His movement is all over the place. He'll throw strikes from all angles. Like his striking is technically good. You'll see him throw that back fist, not a spinning back fist, just a back fist, like a backhand to people as he comes in and out. Because the hand is already there, he's going to bring it across your body, so he might as well bring it across your face anyway. Anders said that he thought that Elias was going to clinch him a lot, which couldn't have been more different than what happened in that first round. But in the second, Anders was able to catch Elias here and there when he's coming inside, but couldn't put anything together because of all the movement. But that changes in the late second round, and I'm not sure how Elias manages to avoid all of the shots that he does at some points. It's kind of puzzling, man. I don't understand it. I'm not going to pretend I can make sense of it, but that's how his game is. Round 3 is more back and forth, and you could tell we were heading for a splitski. Instead of Elias using his post-fight speech to put over how great my hair is, he puts over medical cannabis. You don't got to watch this one. You also don't got to watch this Katlyn Chookagian, Jessica Eye split decision. Jessica Eye, number 9 in that division, defeating the number 3 Chookagian. Now, this is significant for a couple of reasons. Jessica Eye, who lost like 5 or 6 straight fights or didn't win 5 or 6 straight fights at bantamweight, moved down to this flyweight division that she advocated for such a long time, and she's 3-0. Katlyn Chookagian was the fighter who was the backup for Valentina or Joanna, had one of them not made it to this night. Chookagian reminds me of a less risky Elias Theodorou. She's not throwing backhands, but the movement, the in, the out, all that stuff, the right fighter can stay with her, and she can stay with any other fighter, but she can make it really messy. When Katlyn comes in, Jessica Eye is able to land combos here and there, and that leads to her getting this split decision win. So she is perpetually angry, Jessica Eye, and sometimes hard to deal with, but perhaps reasonably so. You gotta realize she considered herself one of the best fighters in the world, and when you're facing women at 135 who could quite frankly compete at any division above 135 because of how thin it is, you're gonna feel, I don't know if targeted is the word, but UFC held on to her because they knew that she could compete at this flyweight division, and she can. She's proven she can. It's gone beyond her just being angry to be angry. I mean, she is just angry to be angry now, but she's proven she can hang there. She beat the woman who was the backup fighter for the title fight tonight. So I understand why she has that chip on her shoulder. And she says, quote, "Joe Rogan, I don't know why you can stare at my butt and not have me on your podcast." Joe Rogan got caught glancing a couple times at her during weigh-ins in the past. And that's becoming the new Dana White, give me my 50 G's. It's get me on your podcast, Joe. We heard that from Max Holloway as well. So, but good for Jessica Eye. She put herself up there in a division that doesn't have a lot of contenders. Sijara Eubanks just hit the road on that. So she's out of the running, essentially. Is Nico Montano in that division? Who knows? I mean, you've got, whenever you can pull up the UFC rankings, they're a mess. So who knows, man? Gilbert Burns dominated Olivier Aubin-Mercier via unanimous decision. Burns is a real monster on the ground. There was something you should look at. The fact that Burns is willing to cross his feet with the hooks in on OAM shows how little respect or concern that he had for Aubin-Mercier's ground game, because that is a first month white belt type of move that you're taught not to do. But Burns had such little concern for Aubin-Mercier's ground game that he did it anyway. Burns is able to stun Aubin-Mercier a couple times with punches. Almost pulls off a Sulev stretch. That would have been something if they had 3 of those in 1 year. Burns has won 3 of his last 4. His first decision win since 2014. You don't got to watch this one either. None of them on the Fox Sports prelims. Talk about an upset. Number 11, Nina Ansaroff, the girlfriend of Amanda Nunes, UFC bantamweight champion, competing for the featherweight title this month, upsets number 3 Claudia Gadelha via unanimous decision. This is a wild contrast in tone on these Fox Sports prelims after the the barn burners that were the Fight Pass prelims. You knew this one wasn't going to get finished. Gadelha couldn't land takedowns late in the fight after having some success early on, but Ansaroff uses her leg kicks and front kicks really well in this fight. Ansaroff stood in there and wasn't intimidated by a girl who often can be intimidating. You look at Claudia Gadelha, man, and she is a specimen. She is brutal. She can really put the pain on some girls. And you look at it, and all Gadelha needed to do was really maybe win this one. Because if she won this, there's a real shot that she could get a title fight. I mean, you got to deal with Andrade, who had beat her, but Andrade hasn't fought Rose Namajunas, so ideally you'd think that Andrade is going to get that title shot. But Gadelha, with the right timing, you never know who's going to get that title shot. Maybe Andrade isn't ready to fight. You just never know. And this would have been 4 wins in her last 5. And it would have been, it's 2.5 years essentially since her last title shot. Back of the line now. Back of the line. And it's like, what do? Do you go up to 125 if you're Gadelha? Well, I don't know. I mean, she's fought at flyweight before in Chuto, Brazil, and met some success. She fought a little bit above 115 in the past and found success there. She fought at 130 and beat Valerie Letourneau in the past. But you running into Joanna Jedrzejczyk up there? She's beat you twice too, and she wasn't good enough to win the title. We'll see how it works out for her. But for Nina Ansaroff, on the other hand, throw her name into that consideration. That's 4 in a row for her. And Jocelyn Jones-Lyberger and Angela Hill, Raina Marcos, maybe not top of the line names, but Claudia Gadelha damn well is. So now you have to put Nina Ansaroff in that discussion. Aaron Nicholson in our live chat says, any clue when Rose is fighting again? No. I have no idea. No word yet. The word was that she was handling some PTSD from the bus attack. Took that pretty tough. Let's talk this UFC pay-per-view main card and this opening fight. Thiago Santos versus Jimi Manuwa. What a fantastic fight. First, I want to say, guys, this episode is sponsored by Action Heat. They make the world's best battery-heated clothing. Control your environment at the touch of a button with Action Heat, engineered to safely and efficiently deliver heat via heating panels similar to a heated car seat. They can reach up to 135 degrees and are powered by rechargeable 5-volt lithium-ion batteries that last up to 12 hours on each charge. You can even recharge your phone or any other gadget while you're wearing them. They make these awesome heated jackets, heated shirts, gloves for women, men, anybody, socks, hats. You can stay warm and cozy from head to toe with Action Heat. I love the shirt. It's got great wiring in the chest to keep you good and warm. Can't wait to take that to the snowboard place, to the tubing place, Perfect North we go to. Stay good, warm, and toasty. Got a pair of those gloves too. I picked up some of those. I really dig the stuff at Action Heat. They have products that fit everyone's budget, starting at just $39.99, and they are a perfect gift idea. Almost nobody has these yet. Eventually, everybody will, but right now, you can get ahead of things, and you can really get ahead by saving 20% on your entire order. Go to actionheat.com/Fightful or use that code Fightful at checkout. I want to thank them for sponsoring this podcast. I love this as a gift idea for sure. Picking up some of these for my family. Thiago Santos just drilled Jimi Manuwa, my friends. I put in my show notes, I got the feeling the decision streak was going to end with this one. Santos counters right out of the gate and puts a clubbering on Manuwa. This is really phone booth fighting. Both men land really good shots out of the clinch, and it seemed like Santos got the best of it in number, but not necessarily in power. He got staggered by an elbow and went for an honest-to-God trouble in paradise. Kofi Kingston's finishing move, the spin kick. He went for it. He didn't quite hit it, but that one's going to have to be added to EA UFC 3. He's going to have to be added to EA UFC 3. If you wondered how Thiago Santos was going to do it at light heavyweight, I think Eryk Anders was a good indication because Eryk Anders showed up for that Elias Theodorou fight at like 225 pounds. So he said. Thiago Santos is a light heavyweight, says that he wants to stick around there. He'll be 35 next month, and he came out slugging in round 2. caught Manawa a bunch of times, knocked him out, folded him up. You have to watch this fight. This is an all-time great light heavyweight brawl. Now, for Jimi Manawa, there are questions. Where does he go? What does he do? Just got to give him fun fights, man. That's all you can do. He's going to be 39 in February. The next time he fights, he's going to be 39. He's lost 3 in a row. He's lost 4 of 6. He is not a top 10 fighter. I don't think he's a top 15 fighter. But he is a fighter that puts on exciting fights. You want to throw him in there against Glover Teixeira? You go ahead and do that. You do just that. You want a rematch? I mean, he's beaten Blachowicz, OSP, Corey Anderson. You want to rematch one of those? Maybe not Blachowicz, because Blachowicz just beat him. Forgot about that. Corey Anderson, fine. Whatever. He is a guy that you can put on the first or second fight of a UFC pay-per-view. You can put him in a co-main event or third from the top, and he'd be fine. But now you got the question, what do you do with Thiago Santos? Well, I see Ole Sammy Ole says, how about Anthony Smith? He did beat Anthony Smith in February. A little soon to do that, although it was at middleweight. You've got the winner of Teixeira and Ian Cutelaba out there, but you also had Dom Reyes. A very interesting Dom Reyes is out there right now for Thiago Santos. I think that could be a good one. Do you want to knock off a younger guy for Thiago Santos right now? I don't know about that. I would maybe wait to see how Ian Cutelaba and Gegard or Glover Teixeira do. I would give the winner of that fight, Thiago Santos. I would give the loser of that fight, Jimi Manawa. This is a must-watch fight. Thiago Santos will be 35 next month. He's won 7 of his last 8. He's 2-0 at light heavyweight, won 3 in a row total, and has had 5 fights since February. And I don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility that he tries to squeeze in another fight before February 3rd, which would give him 6 fights in a 1-year period. Amazing. Friendly reminder, subscribe to our MMA and Boxing YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fightful MMA Boxing. It is greatly appreciated, my friends. Lots of exclusive interviews, news clips, live news updates, boxing news, all kinds of stuff, show clips. It's a good time. Hakeem Dawodu bored Kyle Bochniak. I say boring in comparison to the fight that preceded it. It was impossible to live up to that. And it was not a solid follow-up to what we had just seen. In name value, excitement, or otherwise. In technique, sure. Dawodu pretty clearly took the first 2 rounds. Footwork, crisp strikes, in and out. Bochniak's corner told him he needed to finish to win. There was this weird thing that the commentary table picked up on. Bochniak kept grabbing his own shorts and pulling them up. And it's something like people would always pick up on Ronda Rousey adjusting her sports bra, her top, and she does it in wrestling as well. If it's that much of a concern, like that's why a lot of people braid their hair or cornroll their hair. You don't want to flip it out of your face. I mean, I know there are some people that have been time doing that. It's a pattern that people pick up on. Also, it seems to have been a distraction. So the commentary team rightfully said, hey, maybe he should probably switch to those compression shorts. Bochniak is able to land a couple of takedowns in round 3, but that's not enough. This really should not have been a split decision. Hakeem Dawodu won this with ease. He dominated it. He was very, I don't want to say full of himself. He's a Canadian guy in front of his home country. He didn't emerge victorious in his debut earlier this year, but has fought back, beat Austin Arnett, beat Kyle Bochniak. But this is not the Hakeem Dawodu that we knew that had the hype in World Series of Fighting in 2016. We started off in World Series of Fighting Canada and was finishing everybody. And I mean, this guy fought his entire pro career up until 2018 in World Series of Fighting and beat Steven Siler, who was a nice UFC caliber opponent. I mean, I think at that point, Steven Siler, even though he lost his way out of the UFC, had won 6 of his last 7 leading into that, with the only loss being a split to Andre Harrison, who doesn't lose to anybody. And I think even today, Steven Siler's like, I'm pretty sure in PFL, he's like unbeaten in his last 4 fights. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure. So that's a good win for Hakeem Dawodu. But he hasn't finished anybody in the UFC. Hasn't finished anybody since 2016 in those 4 fights. So he's going to have to do that. Let's talk about this finish. This Alex Oliveira, Gunnar Nelson finish. Disgusting. I want to talk about early on where Alex Oliveira holds onto the cage to prevent a takedown and gets a warning. In the middle of a takedown. That's got to be a point deduction. Something has to be set up where if somebody's doing that on a double leg, they either are, the other person is granted a position on the ground or a point is deducted. Because if you look at fights back in history, look at Jose Aldo versus Chad Mendes. How different would that fight be if Jose Aldo didn't hold onto the fence? I don't know how different it would be. Would Chad Mendes have taken him down? Would he have been able to held him down? I don't know. And that's the point. You're taking that out of possibility. Should have been an automatic point deduction. Justin H. in the live chat, I completely agree with you. Automatic point deduction. Doesn't matter. As it turns out, it didn't matter. Oliveira did turn the tides out of this body triangle. I can't begin to explain to you how physically taxing it is to have a body triangle on you, but I don't know how physically taxing it is to have one. Gunnar Nelson? That's unbelievable. And Alex Oliveira was able to turn over in that after punching behind his own head. Not usually effective. Usually a sign the fight is about to end, and it was, but not because of that. Not the type of situation you see a lot. Cowboy throwing punches with Nelson on his back, but Gunnar Nelson was able to do what he does best. He was able to drag Oliveira down, crack him open, and submit him with a rear naked choke. So Gunnar Nelson lands this elbow. And it is just nothing short of grotesque, my friends. It is real friggin' gross. I'm going to try to pull it up for you guys. It is just, it opened him up like a faucet. And I'll let you all see some of the blood here because it was a sight to behold. A little uncomfortable, to be honest with you. He was leaking. He being Cowboy Oliveira. Immediately afterwards, Nelson applied a rear naked choke, got that submission win, and he needed to. Gunnar Nelson hadn't fought in a while. So you have to enter somebody's consciousness stream, the MMA fans' consciousness stream. I often say this. I mean, you look at Gunnar Nelson, he's a 30-year-old man now. This isn't 6 years ago when he was a 23, 24-year-old prospect. He's here now. He's lost 3 times in a row to Rick Story and Damian Maia. It's a couple people he probably shouldn't have lost to. So Ponzinibbio, well, okay. But then he takes a year and a half off. You got to enter somebody's consciousness stream pretty well. And in fights that Nelson loses, specifically Story and Maia, they ain't great. But the fights that he wins are usually pretty damn good. So this is the type of performance that he needed to have. He needed this one. I'm going to pull up the fight reviews essentially for the main and co-main. Joanna Jedrzejczyk and Valentina Shevchenko for the vacant UFC flyweight title in a fight that probably should have been the original title fight to begin with, but you know, a lot of circumstances unfolded from the Ultimate Fighter to a bantamweight title fight of Shevchenko's to Joanna wanting her title back. But I mean, man, this was the fight. This was a high-level fight, and it's one that Valentina Shevchenko did not have trouble taking. Again, guys, actionheat.com/Fightful sponsoring this show. I want to thank them so much. Head over there. Use that code Fightful. Save 20% on your purchase. A perfect Christmas gift idea. And when you see Shevchenko, you see how she just manhandled this fight. It was borderline uncomfortable to see a woman who was so dominant in Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Just quite frankly, I don't know how to put this. She got sunned. She got sunned real hard in this one. And for Joanna, it's like, well, what do you do from here? How do you handle this? How do you move on? Because she was in denial over the Rose Namajunas fights. She can't be in denial over this fight. It was so one-sided. And it really seemed like on commentary that Joe Rogan was trying to play up a storyline that was not there. Shevchenko imposed her will on Joanna Jedrzejczyk. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys this. Here's a look at her hitting essentially a belly-to-belly suplex. A Bailey to belly if you're a WWE fan. It kept Joanna down for the 3 count. Shevchenko was able to sweep the leg right here. Beautiful. Beautiful tie sweep, essentially. Joanna did find some success later on and kind of slugged Shevchenko with a head kick, but it wasn't that flush. The powerful takedowns of Shevchenko really set her apart from Joanna. And there wasn't a lot of damage done on the ground. But Shevchenko Joanna essentially brought a shovel and she needed a bulldozer, man, to dig herself out of that hole. The striking stats don't really tell the story where they say, oh, the same amount of significant strikes. Yeah, Joanna's were pretty light leg kicks. Joanna's were a lot of good counters to the body and to the head. And there's no real way to put this besides the fact that Shevchenko just dominated this fight. I had it 50-45 Shevchenko. The official scorecards read 49-46 across the board. Shevchenko didn't say a whole hell of a lot afterwards, but after what she went through in the Amanda Nunes fight, I had that fight scored for Shevchenko, the Amanda Nunes fight. You look at that, and man, she hung right there with Nunes. I thought she beat her. She beat the best 115-pound fighter ever, arguably one of the best champions in UFC history, and she beat Holly Holm. That is an insane resume to be able to have, and I get a feeling she's going to run roughshod over this division. Who beats her here? Joanna's not beating her. I don't care what kind of drawing board she goes back to. Joanna ain't beating Valentina Shevchenko. I don't believe it. And I pull up the fightmatrix.com ratings, which is a statistically based thing. And Valentina's own sister is sneaking up into the top 10 after one UFC fight. If you want to see how thin that division is. Maybe you have Jessica I. Sure, give her the shot. Why not? Why not her? Not going to be Jara Eubanks. She hit the brick. She's gone. Nico Montano, can you trust her? No, I think you got to give her another fight before then. Not going to be her. Throw Jessica I in there. Why not? Who else you got? Maybe Liz Carmouche. She's good. I like watching Liz Carmouche fight. I think Liz Carmouche can hang about as well with Shevchenko as anybody else in this division. And that being said, I think Shevchenko beats her pretty easily. Main event time, my friends. This was a good one. Max Holloway defeated Brian Ortega to retain the UFC featherweight title. A reminder, actionheat.com/Fightful sponsoring this show. Use that code Fightful to save 20% on the hottest, literally, Christmas gift of the season. You can see our full podcast for more information on actionheat.com/Fightful. Max Holloway getting it done, man. And there were a couple of times throughout this fight, I did doubt a little bit. I got a little concerned for Max Holloway. He got a little cute there. But he was facing a 1-year layoff, which is wild to think. But let's before we talk about that, let's break down the fight in general. I'm going to give you all a look here. Hopefully UFC doesn't pull these. They are GIFs, essentially. But Max Holloway, early on, opening up in that second round, landing some nice strikes on Brian Ortega. But Brian Ortega wouldn't back down, literally and figuratively, man. Brian Ortega basically got stumbled, maybe dropped a little bit in this fight, but the beating that he was able to sustain and still throw shots, some threatening shots here and there, was like the heart was Fabio Maldonado-esque. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, man. These two guys are going to run into each other again sometimes. I don't know if it's going to be any different. I really don't think it will be. But what I saw to Brian Ortega was insane. Ortega took Holloway down, couldn't do anything with it. Ortega was digging or getting dug to the body. Holloway striking at range and stepping out of Ortega's range. Holloway really turned up the heat in round 2, but abandoned a lot of his defense in the meantime and ate a lot more strikes in that round and throughout the rest of the fight than he did in the first. I thought that Holloway got way too cute with his defense, got caught several times in the first 2 minutes of round 3, and that is dangerous territory with Ortega's hooks, uppercuts, and elbows. But Holloway is just he's one of the best I've ever seen at striking and moving backwards. He moves backwards. He keeps his chin up, but is able to slip with it and lands rangy punches while he does that at just a masterful level. Just a really, really great level. Mercifully, this fight is stopped before round 5. And before that, before round 4, Max Holloway says, I'm in it this round. Technically true, but we've yet to see anybody. I mean, technically, we've seen Brian Ortega stopped now. Technically. But we've never seen anybody like make him tap out, knock him out. Any of that, which is kind of mind-boggling to see. Then after the fight, we hear Max Holloway and Joe Rogan say, best 145-pound champ ever. And I'm thinking, hey, listen, I get it. Max Holloway beat Jose Aldo twice. What? Before this, that was it. That was the only person he had beat as 145-pound champion. Jose Aldo won 10 title fights. 10 title fights. Who did he beat to get there? How about Cub Swanson, who's still relevant now? How about he beat Uriah Faber, a Hall of Famer, for that title? He beat Kenny Florian, who competed for the lightweight title. He beat Chad Mendez, still relevant now. Beat Korean Zombie, still relevant now. Beat Frankie Edgar, one of the greats. Beat Mendez again. Beat Lamas. Beat Edgar again. Jose Aldo is the greatest featherweight champion ever. Will he be when all is said and done? I don't know about that. I think Max Holloway could probably beat him out there. Having the jump on Jose Aldo with 2 wins to none, that's a good start. Beating Brian Ortega the way that he did, that's a hell of a jump too. That's a pretty good beating Ortega for the first time. That's a great way to do it. Anthony Pettis, good win. Lamas, Stevens, Oliveira, Swanson, all good wins too. But I just don't think he's there yet. However, can't wait to see him fight again. Hopefully his health is all there. He had never pulled out of a fight before this year, pulled out of 3 this year. It didn't even seem like he had missed a full year because he had been scheduled to fight so many times. Like I said, he had been in that stream of consciousness for me. I remembered Max Holloway. All throughout this year, he's had something scheduled, something going on, with the exception of a couple of months. So it didn't seem like he had been out of action for that long. Guys, after this one, Holloway called for a UFC card in Miami camp. Nikita Krylov fan was over here watching the fights with me tonight. He said, I can't believe Bellator beat him there. And I'm like, yeah, taxes, man. Bellator doesn't give a shit. They're one of the most terribly run companies in the world. There you go. Holloway says he wants a shot at lightweight. He wants to be the pound-for-pound best, but wants to defend his crown. I hope he can do it safely. Max Holloway, man. I look at him and Tony Ferguson a lot. Oh, that's a fight I want to see. My God. Him and Tony Ferguson. Those are two guys that I don't think you realize how much you're going to miss until it's all done and they're gone. And that just hit me that fight could happen. Oh, man. That is something that just like I hadn't even considered before. I'll give you some updates from the UFC post-fight press conference, which you all can check out at FightfulMMA.com. We have full coverage at FightfulMMA on Twitter. Joanna Jedrzejczyk credits Valentina for her strength and smarts on the ground, is happy with her performance, says she's going to take some time off. Wants a challenge for the title again at strawweight, but says that Rose will lose the belt if she doesn't defend it in 4 months. You'll lose it if you can't defend it within a year. Joanna says she felt good at the weight and did her best. She's only going back to 115 if it's for a title shot. Short and sweet for Joanna, who grabs a box of pizza on her way out. Dana White is up now. Max and Brian get the fight of the night. Santos and Max get performance of the night. So Max gets an extra $100,000. Think about that. An extra $100,000 on top of whatever his Reebok outfitting is. I don't know what the hell that is. I'd have to look and see the last time we have a disclosed payout for Max Holloway, because it's been quite a while since we were told what he got paid for a show. I mean, he was making $150,000 2 years ago. Holloway was. So he's making way more than that now. We're probably talking about a $350,000, $400,000 payday for Max Holloway tonight. When all is said and done, maybe more than that. That's just an estimate. Just an estimate. Dana forgets Jose Aldo's name when saying, let's not forget about when discussing featherweight's greatest of all time. Dana says that he loves Toronto. People don't understand what a big fight town it is. Yeah. And man, I love that city too. Dana wanted the fight stopped after the 4th. Believes Ortega could and went out for the 5th, but glad it didn't happen. It would have been bad for his health. Dana wants Max to move up to 155, saying he's done everything at 145. Why keep cutting the weight? There are big things at 155. I'm inclined to agree, because when you look at the way that division is, who's next? Moicano, who just got beat by Ortega last year. Mendez, if he wins against Volkanovski, maybe. Ugh. Dana supports Joanna taking time off, but wants to see her back at 115. Dana has a lot of influence on Max going up to 155. Won't commit to giving Max an immediate title shot at 155 if he moves up. And I think that's right. You got Poirier around there. You got Ferguson there. Dana White says that he has they just re-signed with TSN. More bad news for the Fight Network. As far as Dana knows, Diaz versus Masvidal is still happening, but has no update with Nate. Doesn't have an update on Woodley versus Covington either. So we've got more and more updates coming all night at Fightful MMA on Twitter and at FightfulMMA.com. We have Fighters React pieces. We have a lot of that stuff. Reminder, Fightful MMA podcast every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern. FightfulMMA.com. Those will be on the MMA channel, Fightful MMA Boxing on YouTube. That is youtube.com/Fightful MMA Boxing. So head over, do us a favor, and subscribe. Check out our beautiful sponsor at actionheat.com/Fightful. I want to thank you guys for joining us. If you really want to help us out, I'm trying to grow those discus boards, those discus forums. Just stop by there on a fight night. Say, hey, I think this person's going to win. I think this person's going to win. I like this fight. I like that fight. That would go a long way. I want to grow our communities there. I know there are a lot of great MMA fans that are friends with our great mod 777 who have considered coming over. Would love to welcome them over as well. But thank you guys so much for joining me on this post show. We are still very much growing our MMA side. I know a lot of you were kind of disenfranchised with another MMA site recently, and I'd like to welcome you here. We're getting stories up quicker, faster than ever. Thank you all. Thumbs up, subscribe. We're out.